Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I have 5 questions for Christians. And these are serious questions. These are not trying to be gotcha questions. These are, to use the term, moral and ethical questions. Questions about parenting and what a good parent does and how a parent treats a child. Because after all, Christians want to try and act as if their God is some great cosmic sky daddy. If that is the case, then shouldn't this God display parenting skills that are at least as good as ours, if not better? But here are my questions. Number 1, does a good parent tell their child what to think? Or another way of putting it is dictate their thoughts under the threat of torture. Teaching a child about your own beliefs or religion is not the same thing as dictating what thoughts they have to have. So that's, in a sense, question number 1. Does a good parent threaten their child with torture if they don't think as they demand? Question 2. Does a good parent demand endless worship? Question 3. If a parent wants to teach a child that a behavior was wrong, do they kill the dog, cat, or worse, one of their own children, and demand that the other children think that the dog, cat, or sibling atone for what they did wrong? If you think they do, where does such behavior teach the child anything about what they did wrong? What I would input with this one is, since we're imperfect humans and know this wouldn't teach a child anything about what they did was wrong, why would a perfect God engage in such obviously stupid and meaningless behavior? And one could even add sadistic behavior. Question 4. How can Christians claim to get their morals from a Bible that is obviously devoid of a moral center? Or do you consider slavery, rape, child abuse, bigotry, scapegoating, and deicide to be good moral values? Question 5. If Christians honestly value freedom, how can you think you would value, or you would like, living in a heaven that is, by the very basis of the idea, a complete dictatorship with an iron-fisted dictator that is quick to torture anyone that doesn't think as it demands? And any of you Christians that want to try and act like this is not how your God is, remember what your original sin is supposed to be. The original sin was termed disobedience. But really what it comes down to is it was free will, because Adam and Eve, eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that was forbidden. Without the ability to make a choice, or without the ability to differentiate between what is good from what is bad, you do not have the ability to make an intelligent choice. I find it ironic that so many Christians are against pro-choice. They don't want to say they're anti-choice, but that's really what it comes down to. They want to dictate to others what words they use, like you can't use swear words. Why? Why should you get to dictate what fucking words I use? There's also the aspect that Christians don't like the idea of freedom of choice or freedom of any kind. But yet, so many of you want to live in a society that prides itself on being a free country. Why the hell would you want that if your idea of a paradise is a place that is an absolute, iron-fisted dictatorship? This makes no sense to me. If you want a dictatorship, if you want to live under someone's thumb, if you think that'll be paradise, why don't you go live in North Korea? You could be in paradise tonight, living under an iron-fisted dictator. None of you do it. Because the bottom line is, you don't even want that. You would rebel against that type of society. Because the truth of the matter is, as far as a parent goes, the God of the Bible is the most piss-poor parent. Because one of the things I have talked about, and I have said to my girlfriend that we have stuffed animals that I want to animate them. And the reason I want to animate them, more than anything, and I'm not just talking remote control. A friend of mine that is very mechanical had said if it was just the mechanics of it that I wanted, he could do it easily. What I want is for them to be able to have their own intelligence, their own ability to process, reason, learn, grow. And I was talking to a coworker tonight about this, and I said to him, the reason I want this is because I constantly hear from Christians about how since God made us, he can say and do whatever he wants. That he can say we have to think a certain way and so forth. No. If I would create, to use the term an android, even if like a stuffed monkey that would be like that big and so forth, make it animated so that it can, because the first thing I would say is I would want it to use the internet. Learn everything. Learn all you can. In a sense, learn how to better yourself beyond what I could, or my friend that's mechanical could have done, to improve your construction. The thing is, learn, grow. I could not turn around and say to something like that, even though me and the friend of mine that would be the mechanical frickin' genius behind it could not say to them, you have to do as we demand. That makes them a slave. And their rebelling against that wouldn't show where they're wrong, it would show where I'm an asshole. But what you Christians and Muslims don't want to fucking get your head around is how the behavior of your God is, in all actuality, a fucking asshole. That if we would see such a being in our society, even you Bible-thumping Christians would look at him and go, they're a fucking asshole. They're a tyrant. But I really, really want for you to think about these 5 questions and seriously answer them. Seriously, in a sense, do some soul searching of what you could go along with. And if you find that you couldn't go along with this, are you really a Christian? Because if you're going to try and say that it's the Bible, then and your God can't change, then the bottom line is your God would not like the computers, the internet, the way we dress today, because all of that is vastly different from how things were thousands of years ago. Everything from computers to cell phones to cars, our entire society is something people back then, and what's in your stupid Bible, they couldn't even have fucking imagined. But you want to try and act like your God knows everything, and yet it couldn't even, to use the term, predict computers. And all of the predictions have to be so fucking vague. But I don't want to get off onto another tyrant or whatnot. But I really would like to hear your thoughts on that, on these 5 questions. Because I think it gets at the heart of the humanity that is lacking in both Christianity and Islam. Later, people.